am your host, Cindy Watson, and today I am really excited to introduce you to Ruth Carter. Today we're going to be talking about how being a rebel in law can help you practicing on purpose. So welcome, Ruth. It is great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And for those of you who don't know Ruth, you are in for a treat. Ruth Carter is an authority on intellectual property, business law, and internet law. Known for their daring antics and outgoing personality, Ruth was selected as an American Bar Association legal rebel, which I just love, and a Phoenix Business Journal 40 under 40. So lots of accolades there. They've offered 3 best-selling books on guerrilla marketing and social media law, including the legal side of blogging for lawyers. And Ruth has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Entrepreneur, and on NPR. So really excited to have the conversation today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what made you want to pursue a career as an attorney to start, Ruth.
So I went to law school a little bit on a whim. I had been working in mental health for about 9 years. I was a licensed professional counselor, and it just wasn't the right fit anymore. I liked the idea of working with people and being a professional problem solver, but sitting in an office all day talking to people about their feelings wasn't the right fit for me anymore. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So a friend of the family said, "You can't go wrong with a law degree." So I said, perfect. I'll go to law school. That'll give me 3 years to figure out this career crisis. And that's about as much thought I put into it before I signed up for the LSAT.
That's fantastic. And what then made you decide to stay in the law after that? A lot of people have going through the law school experience who thought they were passionate about it end up moving in other directions, but you obviously decided to stick with it. What was the decider for you on that?
I realized I needed it as much for myself as I could be an asset for other people in terms of, especially the areas of law that I practice. I do what I do because I needed this information for myself. But by the time I graduated, I was a blogger, I was involved in social media, and this was all information that I didn't know before I started law school. And I knew that the people I knew out in the real world who were fellow bloggers and whatnot also needed this information. So it just made sense to parlay this information into a business.
I think that's so great. As you know, Ruth, this podcast is called Practicing with Purpose. And I wonder, it sounds like a lot of the purpose that you derive from this is because the kind of law you practice is something you're already passionate about and feel very on purpose with. Is that a fair characterization?
That is absolutely on point.
I love that. And also coming from a mental health background, I think that's really interesting. I'd love if you could talk a bit about how, if at all, you marry the skill sets from that sort of former aspect of yourself. Do you find you bring that into your practice of law?
I don't think I will ever stop diagnosing people in my head. Um, so I think it gives me a perspective on people that maybe others don't have. Whereas when dealing with challenging people, or when the opposing party, not their counsel, but their client, is somebody who might be mentally ill, or potentially dealing with potential clients who are calling me, since I deal with internet law, I occasionally get a call from somebody who sounds like they might be wearing a tinfoil hat. So it helps me identify those types of situations, and especially not take it personally when it's obvious that somebody, even though they are angry, they might be angry at me, or angry at my client, they may be doing it not because they are angry, but because they're sick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find to be a really effective lawyer, so much of it is actually about connection, being able to make those human connections and understanding. Do you find having a background in mental health is something that helps you with that?
That's hard to say if that's my mental health background or just trying to be somebody who can put themselves in their client's shoes and work from that perspective. And I know I've heard from people who have said that I am not like other lawyers, that they find me more approachable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I work in jeans and a t-shirt, and I will tell people, do not dress for this meeting. Just come in. Let's talk about your problem. So I think there's something in there that makes it easier for people to connect with me. And I try to avoid legalese when the better way to communicate with my client, with the other side, is to just lay it out in plain English and say, look, here's the deal,
Yeah.
and just go from there.
Yeah, beautiful. And so funny when you say that, when people say that you're not like a typical lawyer. Anytime that anybody said that to me, I take that as the highest compliment. And for a long time, I used to never admit it. When I back in my bar hopping days, I never admitted I was a lawyer in public, right? It was like always such a shock when the business cards came out at the end of the evening. So but it sounds like what you're talking about too is empathy, frankly, Ruth. Like you bring empathy, truly seeking to put yourself in the shoes of the other party, to understand and be able to meet their needs. Is that something you're intentional about in your practice?
I I know as a lawyer, it's not about me. It's about my client.
Nice.
And a lot of times when I'm meeting with a client for the first time, I will ask them, how do you want this situation to end? Because it's not my job to advocate for what I think they should do, but help them get to where they want to go, if
So
that's possible.
and so important. And I don't know what your experience was. I'd love for you to share. I think one of the problems with the practice of law sometimes is our entire conditioning through law school is we come out believing it's about us. There's a very high level of ego. And I think the most effective lawyers, and lawyers who are able to practice more on purpose and stay passionate about it, are lawyers who can release that ego and truly come from a place of service about meeting the needs of their clients. How do you approach that in your practice?
Absolutely. It blows my mind when I encounter a lawyer who sends me an email that is just dripping with ego. And I go like, what is this? Like, what are you trying to do? What are you so insecure about? And I don't understand it. So I try to sidestep it as best I can. I am not the most diplomatic person. But at the same time, if they say something that's inaccurate, I still have an obligation to correct them, but I try not to add fuel to the fire if possible.
Nice. And you've got to share with us as well. I know you're the founder of Improv. Is it A to Z or just AZ? How do you pronounce
it? Yeah, Improv AZ, Improv Arizona.
Oh, it's for Arizona. I thought it was like A to Z is in the alphabet, right? Improv Arizona AZ. And it's a prank and flash mob troupe. That is not the first thing that comes to mind when most people picture a lawyer. So that, I can see the rebel lawyer. So tell us a little bit about that. That sounds really interesting.
So when I was a 1L, that was 2009. There we go. That was the year that the group out of New York, Improv Everywhere, opened up their annual no pants subway ride to the planet. And because they had been doing it for years. And so that year they said, hey, if you've got a subway, a train, a bus where you live and you want to do it on the same day that we are, organize it and we'll help, we'll add it to our website. So somebody in Phoenix, his name's Jeff Moriarty, said, hey, we just opened up our light rail. We should do this. And so there was about 90 of us who hopped on the train that day in Phoenix in our underwear. So from the waist up, you're totally normal. Waist down, underwear and shoes, acting like there's nothing weird going on. You have no idea why all these other people aren't wearing pants. And that's actually where I met Jeff. I'd never met him before, but I knew I had to make him my friend because I was like, if you're organizing this, you are my people.
Yeah.
And so we had a great time, all of us doing it. And there was a handful of us who said, we need to keep doing stuff like this. So we organized Improv AZ, and we've done the no pants subway ride multiple years. We've done things like a living Where's Waldo game. We did a fake hero versus villains, like fake fight, like they did in the original Batman TV show. So it's all lighthearted. things that, no one's, designed to delight and surprise an unsuspecting audience.
So
And
good.
so, yeah, and so it's fun to plan it, to be part of it. And as an organizer, I'm the one who has to look up the corresponding laws to see, okay, how do we do this without setting ourselves up to get arrested?
Especially the underwear gig. And just out of curiosity, what's the response that you tend to get when you do the pantless journey?
We get all kinds of reactions. We've had people take off their pants and join in.
Wow.
We've had people be shocked, ask us like, what's going on? Lots of people taking pictures.
Oh, I'm sure.
The cops tend to know that we're doing it, and so they're nearby, but as long as no one's doing anything wrong, like
Yeah.
they're like, hey, really, we're covered more than what most people wear at the beach.
Yeah, it's so
So
true.
it's
So
just
true.
it's just unexpected to see sometimes several hundred people in their underwear in public in January.
And you just hit on the crux of it, I think. It's that unexpected piece. And I wonder, Ruth, is that something that you find like having these outside interests that are fun and totally unexpected? Does that help you stay passionate about the practice of law?
I think it's essential to have a life outside of whatever you do for a living.
Yeah.
So whether you want to balance that out with a sport, some type of music, community involvement, acting, I do flash mobs, whatever, something that lets you blow off steam, get your mental cogs turning in a different way than what you do for your 9 to 5, or for some lawyers 5 to 9.
Yeah.
But something to create that balance.
Yeah, so important, that balance piece and something outside, because we do tend to get sometimes so focused, so single-mindedly focused that we lose perspective, and no wonder we lose passion. So now you wrote a book on flash mob law, which I suspect not many of our listeners know much about. So can you tell us a little bit about it? What kind of issues come up? And other than being a participant, was there anything else that drove you to creating the book on that?
That was the main reason why I was inspired to do it. When I was in law school, I did an independent study on the legalities of being a flash mob organizer.
How appropriate.
I think I wrote like a 90-page paper on that.
Wow.
There's a lot of issues with any type of flash mob or prank that we do. We have to think about, what could we be accused of doing wrong, and what could we inadvertently actually be doing wrong,
Yeah.
and mitigate that. So for example, when my friends and I dressed up like zombies and scared people who were jogging along a popular running path in Phoenix, I was the one to say, okay, make sure that you don't touch anybody.
Yeah.
Don't, and of course the path is right next to the canal. So like, okay, don't do anything that's going to cause anyone to fall into the water. Don't touch anybody, because running shoes are expensive. So don't
Yeah.
hurt, we don't hurt anybody. It's, just looking at all types of issues relating to potentially, assault, battery, inadvertently causing a riot,
Yeah.
uh, conspiracy, solicitation in the organizing process. With the no pants ride, we have to
Yeah.
look at decency law, like how much of your
Absolutely.
parts have to be covered. We actually at one point thought about having a nearly naked bike ride, and I got to have the fun conversation with our local police department about, okay, what exactly qualifies as coverage from a
Yes.
legal perspective? And they were like, so it's like, we know what that cloth is, and if you're going to wear a loincloth, you need something to keep it down, and paint probably isn't enough to be coverage, but liquid latex is like where like the
Yeah.
gray area is, like, is this coverage, is it not? So we're like, okay, color is not coverage, and that seemed to be like the gray area where like maybe you are, maybe you're not.
I love it. And
So yeah.
as you're talking about this, Ruth, it's amazing to me because, and again, for our listeners or our viewers out there, I mean, it sounds like pick something that you love, pick an area in life that you feel passionately about, something that you love, and you can find a way to make that because there, virtually anything that any activity that you're passionate about, there are going to be potential legal issues that arise. So you can create a niche market around something that you're already passionate about. What are your thoughts on that, Ruth, for our listeners?
I think if that's something you want to do it. I have had many conversations or emails from people who want to plan something and they need help, and it's really cute when it's like a 15-year-old and they'll say like, we don't have money, and I'll respond back to them saying, okay, here's my number, give me a call. I'm not going to give you legal advice, but we can talk about this, prankster to prankster, about, if I were
Nice.
planning this is what I would do. um, but on the flip side, I could also can understand why somebody would not want to mix their recreational passion with their professional work, so that way there is
Yeah.
part of their life where they're like, in this area, when I'm doing this, I am not a lawyer. I don't
Yeah.
have to think about being a lawyer.
Yeah.
So whether that's, acting, gardening,
Yeah.
playing baseball, like whatever, like I totally understand why we need to have those things where, like, when we are doing that, we are absolutely 100% not lawyers.
Yes. This is my release time. This is my escape time. I think that's a great distinction. I love that. And I know
Yes.
in addition to flash mob law and work, you also do a lot of internet law and you've got a lot of knowledge about social media and content marketing. How do you think that can help a lawyer in this century? Because I think a
Oh,
lot of lawyers are still being dragged kicking and screaming into this century. So how can knowledge of social media or content marketing help lawyers out there today?
I think if you want to be competitive in terms of marketing your practice, content marketing is one of the best ways to do it. And when I say content marketing, I mean not just making advertisements. I'm not talking about like creating banner ads on the internet that follow people around. I'm talking about creating things like blog posts or videos
Yeah.
or some type of resource that people can access and learn about your practice areas, your knowledge, giving them things that they can apply to their own life. And then in return, when they need legal help,
Mm.
yours is going to be the first website they go to seek out legal services. So I've been blogging and creating videos and having an e-newsletter. I guess now we just call it a newsletter. We don't have to call it an email
Yeah.
newsletter anymore. For most of my career, and the majority of people say they find me through the internet, and it's because so their email to me will start with, I saw this video, or I saw your blog post about X, can you help me do it?
Okay, nice. And tell us a little bit of the blog posts are probably going to be more familiar to people, but when you talk about videos, just tell a little bit for those lawyers who maybe aren't there yet. How do you use it in your own practice? Where do you promote it? That kind of thing.
So my videos are about as simple as a video can be and still be a video. It's like a Q&A style where they are questions people have sent me via email or through my social media or in response to another video I had created. And so I'll just say, like, hi, I'm Ruth, I'm a lawyer. Today's question is, and I just read the question.
Yeah.
I respond to the question. The videos are less than 5 minutes. It's just me in
Okay.
my head talking. There's nothing fancy. There's no animation. There's nothing
Yeah.
that's exciting. Less than 5 minutes total.
That's
I have to
awesome.
end with my standard disclaimer, this is information, not legal
Yeah.
advice. If you need legal advice, go hire a lawyer. Um,
And where do
Super
you promote
simple.
that? Where would people find that? Do you have a YouTube channel or on your website or both or more? Where do you get it out there?
Yes, I have a YouTube channel, and then I'll post links to them on, you know, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter.
Perfect.
I will embed them into blog posts if I think it's an appropriate match. It's really easy if you have a good umbrella topic where you can write a blog post and create a video about it. And so depending on what that person, how the audience likes to absorb information, whether they want to watch it or they want to read it, both are available.
Nice.
So
that's fantastic. Yeah. And I'm so glad you said about how simple and the fact that that's your practice, and yet you're getting clients calling you from it. Because I think for a lot of lawyers and for all our listeners out there and viewers, if you're intimidated because you're worried that, oh, I don't know how to do the production, I have no technical skills, you're hearing it right here from Ruth that you can make it as simple as you want. Literally just grab your phone, hold it up, do a 5-minute little Q&A on a subject that's relevant to your practice area and start getting yourself out there. And also, Ruth, do you find for you is there's gratification that you're really coming from a place of service when you do that as well? How much of it is a part of that for you?
Oh yeah, I love it. One thing I really like about my videos is once I built up enough of an audience that they started responding in the comments with additional questions, I don't have to come up with questions anymore. They're just waiting for me to answer. And so it is the one place I can give away information for free. So if somebody has a general question, I can respond to it in that way.
And Ruth, I'd love you to talk a bit about, I have a particular passion about the art of negotiation because I believe all of life is a negotiation, whether you're negotiating with your kids, your intimate partner, or multi-million-dollar deals. I'd love if you could speak a bit to the art of negotiation and what part it plays in your practice generally, both and how it can help as an attorney and in life. What's your philosophy on it?
I think my philosophy on negotiation varies depending on the situation. I think as an advocate, it's a great thing to say, if I'm advocating for my client, we'll say, okay, we'll tell them we want 3 things when really we only want 2. And so that way the other side can feel like they put a win on the board when we still get what we want. Yeah. So from that perspective, I get it, where each side can walk away feeling like either they got what they wanted or they didn't have to give everything that the other side wanted to claim they wanted to get. So from that to get to a resolution, I get it. On the flip side, I prefer not to play games. Yeah. So I would rather just go, I don't want to do this horse trading thing, as my partner would say. Just, let's just, here it is, final answer. Like, let's just get this done. Yeah. So, and even with I bought a car this year and it was just like, all right, like, let's just do this. Here's the number, let's go. Yeah. I want to be done.
Yeah. And I think that is a negotiation philosophy. I think for so long we've been conditioned. It's one of the reasons I feel passionately about it. We've been so conditioned to see negotiation based on that more archaic, very competitive model. When in fact, I think the most effective negotiation is when people come from a place of rapport and empathy and collaboration and let's get to it and try and get a deal that gets maximum value for everybody involved. I think that's a great philosophy. Now, you're clearly not afraid to sort of buck the system or the, typical conditioning of what it means to be a lawyer. I'd be really interested to hear your perspective as well on how you define success, because I think that's one of those other areas where we're very conditioned, I think generally, but particularly as lawyers through the law school process, to define success in a particular way. I'd love, how do you define success, Ruth, and what do you attribute your success to?
Yeah, I think a lot of us are conditioned to believe that success has to do with money or owning certain things, or having certain, let's say, like titles in life. And while some of those things are nice, I don't see in the big picture a lot of value in any of that. So, for me, yes, to a degree, success does have to do with money, because, we all have bills. And I like the idea of having putting money away for the future. I see myself as an aspiring minimalist. So the acquisition of stuff does nothing for me.
Yeah.
I do have a dream house that I'm planning in my head that I want to build someday. But again, it has nothing to do with, it's not some giant, McMansion. It's relatively small because I don't need stuff. I don't buy excessive amounts of stuff. I have a couple of hobbies that are kind of expensive, but beyond that, I don't care. I would rather, I don't know. I guess for me, when I think about like what is a theme word that I have in my life that is like a guiding principle, is freedom. And so I want to have freedom to have the life that I want in terms of who I spend my time with, where I go, what I do. I want no material needs that are unmet. I want to be comfortable, but not extravagant, because I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So I want to be able to contribute, both financially and in terms of time and influence. So that's a long-winded description of how I view success.
Not at all. I think that's gorgeous. Freedom and contribution. Those are both pretty powerful markers for defining success. I love it. I think that's gorgeous. And it's funny you talk about a potential minimalist. My daughter was on a kick a little while back and started this. I think she called it Jade's Minimalist Sphere. It was about promoting a minimalist movement. So I think that's interesting. So how you've already given us some tips on it, but how have you, I guess, personally gotten away from, and it sounds like you have, so that traditional, more competitive, constant fight mode, that soul sucking kind of mode of practicing, to find a way to practice more on purpose?
I think I never got into that rat race to begin with, to be honest. When I graduated from law school, I was pretty much unemployable because I was an outspoken blogger. I was doing flash mobs. I didn't want to do the big firm thing. I had done a big firm internship. It was a great experience. It taught me a lot about what I don't want in my professional life. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just a mismatch for me. And I wanted to write and speak, wear jeans. And so a friend of the family said, why don't you go solo? And so I went solo right out of the gate. And so one of the fun things, one of the realities of having a brand new law practice right out of law school is you have a lot of free time because you're building the business. So you learn how to be an entrepreneur while you're learning to be a lawyer. You're crafting your business and your professional life from scratch. So I could make it whatever I wanted it to be. I didn't have anybody standing over me saying, you have to do it this way. I mean, there were some suggestions from the friend who suggested I go solo, became my business coach for 18 months. And so she taught me about things like QuickBooks and things like the business basics, and how to create like a business plan and things like that. But otherwise, it was my professional life was for my creation. And so when it was time for me to have my first office, I told my realtor, I said, I need to find an office where my dog is welcome. And he was like, seriously? I was like, yeah. Like that's a requirement. And then when I was three years out, I wanted more stability. There happened to be a business and intellectual property firm in my city that was looking for a lateral hire with at least 3 years of experience and a book of business. And I was like, I have 3 years of experience in a book of business. And I met with the partners. They said, we'd like you to join the firm. My first thought was, did you not Google me up? Because there is some messed up stuff out there about me, and it is all true. I didn't say that. What I said was, great, I come with a dog. And they were like, seriously? It's like, yeah. So I had to negotiate my dog into my contract.
I love it.
And so that's where I've been since 2015 is I work in a firm. I'm of counsel, so I still get to
Yeah,
handpick my clients. I
nice.
don't have billable hour requirements. I don't have a dress code. I recently said, I'm not going to come to work on Mondays anymore. And instead, in the mornings, I go volunteer at a farm animal sanctuary and I write in the afternoons. And then I'm in the
Oh,
office Tuesday through Friday.
I love it. And how
So
consistent with your definition of success, which is freedom. And it sounds like you have crafted a practice that allows you exactly the freedom that you need. And you've really hit on a nugget there when you talked about starting your own firm, that you crafted sort of your practice. And I really want to put a pin in that for our listeners and our viewers out there, because whether you go out on your own as a solopreneur, or whether you're working in a more traditional firm, you still have the opportunity. I really invite you to think about, are you crafting the practice that you want within the way that you show up in your workplace? I think that was a beautiful advice that you gave us there, Ruth. That's great. And also when you talk about the word creation, because that crafting and creating, I think that's something that we often leave on the back burner. So I think that was gorgeous advice. And I'd love if you could share with us, how do you maintain your passion for the practice? I mean, you've given us so many tips already. Is that the key to success, or I mean, that's the key to getting it? What's the key to maintaining that passion?
some days are easier than others.
That's fair.
I will admit some days is a slog.
Yeah.
I have a massive to-do list right now that is not getting any shorter. Like every day it seems like it's getting longer. And it's like, okay, yeah. How do I keep my passion in my practice? Part of it is I still get to hand choose my clients.
Yeah, that's huge.
So I that is huge. And
Well, and your outside activities,
I
I've
think
got
for
to think
me,
that your improv has got to be a big part of that as well, no?
I mean, I unfortunately, because especially because of COVID,
Ah,
we haven't been doing too many prankstery things since we've
that's
had a
fair.
pandemic. So like
That's
last
fair.
year's No Pants Ride was canceled. This year's is
Yeah.
probably going to be canceled. So, but definitely having a life that is not anchored to I'm a lawyer.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's not my only goal. That's not the only purpose of my life.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I like being in a position where I can help people in a way that they can't do for themselves.
Yeah.
So always being able to do that. And I invite opportunities for ongoing contribution. Like, for example, earlier this year, I had a mom reach out to me because they needed help getting their child through the name change process. Their child is transgender. I'm non-binary, so I've been through the process of
Yeah.
changing my birth certificate, my driver's license with my gender identification. And this mom just needed some help. They had a 20-year-old kid who was in college, and they had I could tell when I talked to this person on the phone that they had all the pieces they needed. They just didn't know how to do them in the right order,
Yeah.
so that they could help their kid get their passport so they could go on vacation like that upcoming
Yeah.
summer. And so I said, come on in. I will help you, do all this. And to just sit down and be like, okay, let me help you through this.
Oh,
And she said something like, please let me pay you. I'm like, no, I'm doing this to help a mom.
oh,
Um,
yeah.
and so to have those situations, whether you're taking on, a pro bono client or just doing these little things to help,
Yeah.
where you're able to use, at least for me, where I get to use my legal knowledge in a way to just help somebody out in a way that they probably could figure it out for themselves, but just to hold their hand and help them feel supported helps keep me reminded of, this is why I do this.
So nice. And it's interesting that, because at first you were thinking like, oh, passion, passion. And I love that for you, it came back to, it sounds like service and contribution are a big part of how you maintain your passion for the law. Would that be fair?
That is absolutely fair.
I love that. That's gorgeous. So, given that you've got a long to-do list, I can't believe how quickly the time is going. I won't keep you too long here, but I'd love if you could share with us, Ruth, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started that could have helped you? What would you pass on to our listeners out there?
Oh, wow. Um, I would say be bold.
Mm,
Don't think that an idea is too far out there.
so good.
Um, unless you're going beyond the realm of what's actually physically possible. So as long as you're not trying to break the law of gravity, it's probably possible. Don't sell yourself short, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
That is definitely something that has been crucial for me, especially given that I am a non-traditional lawyer. There is no path for me to follow, so I get to take tidbits from here and there and look to people who are either have the entrepreneurial perspective or have the legal perspective to say, what do you, this is what I'm thinking, what's your input?
Yeah.
What do you think? Or I just need advice. This is
Yeah.
this is where I'm stuck. So even if you're a solo, you're never alone.
Nice. So nice. And I normally, and it may be the same for you because that was a fabulous answer. I normally like to end by asking, what's one of the greatest mindset shifts that you've ever had in your life? Again, it doesn't have to be about law or the practice of law. It can be anything because I love when you have that light that things just suddenly shift. You have that perspective shift that changes everything. What would you say was your greatest mindset shift?
I think for me, one of the big shifts came when I let go of the idea of needing to be first. Um,
Mm,
because in law school, you're surrounded by people who are straight A students, top of the list, have awards coming out their ears. Everybody's amazing.
yeah.
Um, and we're putting you all in a group, and half of you are going to be in the lower 50th percentile. The difference between top and bottom is very small,
Yeah.
but on paper, they make it look like it's very big.
Yeah.
Um, and and so when I realized that that's the situation, I stopped checking my grades.
Yeah.
I had one of the assistant deans check my grades for me and just let me know that I passed all my classes.
I
Seriously,
love
I have
it.
no idea what I got in any class. I
Yeah.
have no idea what my class rank was. And that shift. And so I went into every final with, I just got to pass.
Yeah.
I just have to learn this stuff. And so letting go of some of those ideas kind of help me shift my mind to be more focused on, oh, what am I here to learn? What am I here to create? What am I here to
Yeah.
do? And it's not about this external ranking system.
Yeah.
Yes, awards are nice. I have one on my wall right behind me. That's my Legal Rebel article.
Yeah.
So I get it. And yes, I did the 40 under 40. But
Yeah.
it's, I don't really care about these external things telling me, what it means to be successful, or what does it mean to do good work, or what does it mean to,
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
what is quality.
Yeah.
That sounded a little weird, but in terms of like
No,
these external things telling you that
yeah.
you have to be X, Y, and Z. And it's like, no, I want to be an outspoken blogger and create. And yes, I want to be a lawyer, but yes, I am a lawyer. But
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
there's
No,
so
I
much
love
more
it.
to that picture.
I think that is a great mindset shift. And it's funny, one of the things in my coaching practice that I often talk about is this shift from that external sense of validation that we so often spend our life chasing after versus getting that internal validation. And it goes back, it's such a beautiful wrap up because I think it ties so beautifully with your definition of success, which is about freedom, the freedom to create, contribute, serve. What more can you ask for? What more can you give in life? How much more purposeful can you be in practicing? So I think that was beautiful. And I can't believe how quick our time has gone, Ruth. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure picking your brain today and getting your insights. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And for our listeners and our viewers out there, make sure to check out more. Go follow up on Ruth Carter. You can check out Ruth check out the website at venjuris.com, VENJURIS. But also you can check the website Undeniable Ruth, or find Ruth on Facebook or Instagram on Undeniable Ruth as well. And I'll make sure to include those in the show notes so you can check out more about them. And I am sure you got loads of great value from this episode. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already done that, and also pass it on to other people that you know who could benefit from this message. If you know some lawyers out there who you think are either passionate about practicing with purpose and would love this message, or maybe lawyers who could use a little bit of tips about how to better practice on purpose and find a better way to practice law, make sure to share this podcast with them. And you can also check out my Art of Feminine Negotiation podcast as well, if that resonates with you. And that is a wrap for this episode. So until next time, go forth and find ways that you can practice on purpose. Find a better way to practice law so that you can rekindle and maintain your passion and make a difference in the world, negotiating your best life on your terms. Until next time, take care.